Hello and welcome back to the channel. Ordinarily I would say a very warm welcome back to the channel, but it is absolutely Baltic here this afternoon. We've got a really strong wind chill, the temperatures are plummeting, it's just above zero at the moment. I'm expecting it to get below zero by the time nightfall comes, but I just don't care. We've got what I'm hoping is going to be the first clear sky for what seems like 3 or 4 weeks. I know I always seem to be saying that at the moment, but we really have had an autumn and early winter in the southern half of the UK, which has been terrible for astrophotography, just cloud after cloud after cloud. But there is a consensus amongst the weather apps that that is going to change tonight, at least for a few hours. We've got a bit of cloud off to the north at the moment. That was expected. I'm hoping that's going to clear off fairly soon. And I've come to the east coast of the UK to a little town or a village called Aldeburgh, which is on the Suffolk coast. It's a very pretty little seaside village town. It's sort of on the cusp between both of those. And the great thing about it is it's on the North Sea. So out that way to the east, or at least once the cloud has gone, it should be really, really dark. There's a few wind turbines, offshore installations and that sort of thing. And in the far distance over there is the Netherlands, which is quite light polluted. But otherwise, in that direction, we should get super, super clear skies. I'm not a million miles away from Dunwich, where I shot the Geminids last year, or indeed Orford Ness is about 5 or 6 miles that way, where I spent the evening on the island there. But this is the first time I've shot specifically in this location, so I'm really looking forward to it. There's a few foregrounds I've got in mind for tonight. The main one is this art installation here. It's a sculpture called the Scallop for very obvious reasons, and it's actually a memorial to Benjamin Britten, the composer, who spent a lot of his life in this part of the world. It's a solid old thing made of stainless steel. And I think there's probably some interesting compositions with this, with both the Orion region out to the east and southeast, and I think also the Cygnus Milky Way setting in the northwest. So I think I've got a couple of compositions from this planned for this evening. And then also I plan to photograph some of the sea defence groins which go out into the sea further down towards the town of Aldeburgh. And on the other side of Aldeburgh is a fortification called a Martello Tower, which I think will be quite an interesting foreground. I've been struggling to get some angles on it that kind of work, but we'll see how that turns out later on. And then across this beach, because this is an active fishing area, there's a few boats which have been brought up onto the beach as well. So hopefully I'll catch some of those. But just so grateful to be out, so grateful to be under the night sky. I can see Venus blazing to the west there, the southwest. Jupiter is coming and going behind me over there as well through the cloud. But it's promising to be a fantastic evening. While I wait for the sun to set, or the sun has set, but while I wait for darkness to fall and the stars to come out properly, I'm going to grab myself some dinner and then hopefully we can get on with some interesting shooting. So thanks for joining me. Let's get on with it. I would love to have just sat drinking tea and watching that lovely dark sky behind me. I need really to go and get on with some of my sky shots for my first foregrounds for the evening. So that's what I'm going to go do now. I'm going to head down onto the beach. It's a lovely night. Venus is setting. Still not quite fully dark. I can see it's a little bit light on the western horizon there, but certainly plenty dark enough out east. So let's head over there onto the beach and get some shots taken. First shot then, hopefully fairly obvious one really, is with the Taurus region. So the Hyades, the Pleiades, Jupiter, maybe a little bit of Auriga there as well, over the top of the sculpture. Going to try and get quite a deep shot. So I'm actually going to start, I think, with doing my sky shots for this, just to make the most of the clear skies. The last thing I want is to do my foregrounds and then for it to all cloud over. So I think this will probably be either a 24mm or a 35mm shot. And I'm going to try and get some of that lovely dark nebulosity and muck that exists in the sky in the Taurus region as well. Let's get on with it. Alright then, so we're away with those sky shots. shooting with the modified Canon 6D at 35mm. I am at f2, so it's an f1.4 lens, which I've stopped down to f2 just to make it a little bit sharper. I'm shooting 2-minute exposures at ISO 800, and I'm hoping that will bring out some of that lovely dark nebulosity and sort of muck that's in that part of the sky as well. So my frame, on the left hand side I have the constellation of Auriga. I've got Jupiter pretty much in the middle of the frame, and then the Pleiades just sort of to the top right of Jupiter, and the Hyades just below it. So quite a lot of interesting things in that frame, and obviously then the foreground will be the sculpture as well. So fairly excited about what that will bring. I'll probably do, I think, 8 or 10 2-minute exposures, and possibly a couple of dark frames as well, just so I can really reduce the noise to bring out the goodness in that sky. Good to be going. We've got quite a lot going on in the sky tonight. You can see Orion starting to rise behind me here. Jupiter blazing up in the eastern sky there, Pleiades just above it. And then you can probably see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, Mars starting to rise there as well, looking really, really red there in the distance. So we've also got Venus just setting behind the houses of Aldeburgh over there as well. So there's a lot going on in the sky, and it's nice and dark. It is still very cold and very windy. Definitely worth it. Okay, so I've turned the camera around now, and I've also put on the 24mm Sigma R f1.4 lens. So I'm capturing the sky shots before the moon comes up in about an hour for the Cygnus region of the Milky Way, which will be behind the scallop sculpture. I am shooting at f4 and 2-minute exposures ISO 800 in portrait orientation. And obviously the idea of this shot is to get some of that lovely nebulosity from within the Cygnus region behind the scallop here. Planning to do some H alpha shots later on as well. I'm actually just going to wait until the moon is starting to rise for those H alpha shots. Moonlight doesn't tend to interrupt with H alpha that much, and it just means I can make the most of what is a very short period, maybe 2 or 3 hours of proper darkness before the moon comes up tonight. It's still freezing cold. The wind is just horrendous, although thankfully the system is stable enough, so tripod and everything seems to be nice and stable, and doesn't seem to be much shake in the stars or anything, but my goodness is it cold. Okay, we are in a bit of a race against time now. The moon comes up in about 35 minutes, and it's about a 65% moon, I think. So I'm getting cracking on what I think will be my final sky shot, or at least my final sky shot without the H alpha filter in. This is going to be a 2-shot pano. I'm in landscape orientation with the 24mm Sigma Art f1.4 lens. And this is going to be a shot that is of the sculpture again, right with the sky, right from sort of the Pleiades and California Nebula area, right down through Orion. So loads and loads of rich nebulosity in that region. I'm going to shoot 2-minute exposures, ISO 800, probably 8 of each. In each pane, and I think that will then take me pretty much bang up to when moonrise happens and the sky will start to get a little bit lighter. I'll then put the H alpha filter on and do the H alpha for these images as well, but hopefully that will really take advantage of these beautiful dark skies around here. Okay, they're looking quite good. It's now time to lower the camera down to do the next 8 shots. So let's pop live view on so I can see where Jupiter is. I'm just going to lower that down, well, pretty much to the horizon now. There we go. Should be fine. So ISO 800, f2, 2-minute exposures. Off we go. You can probably see now that the moon has come up. The sky is noticeably lighter, a lot harder now to see the Milky Way, and there seems to be a bit of haze gathering on the horizon as well. So I started a short while ago my H alpha shots. I've got the clip-in filter with the 24mm lens. I had a few problems focusing, as I often do with the H alpha shot, because it's very hard to see a star in live view. So a bit of trial and error, and I think I got there. I've done now 4 3-minute exposures at ISO 6400 for both of the panes that I've got for this Orion and Taurus region image. There seems to be quite a nice bit of detail coming out there as well. So I'll be blending those later on with the RGB images that I took as well. I had planned as well to do some H alpha shots of the Cygnus region as well, but I have to say it's looking a bit murky in that direction, and I'm not sure how well those shots will come out. I might try them, but it could be they're not good enough to add into the images. So that pretty much wraps up my time here at the sculpture, the scallop sculpture. I'm now going to head over to the other side of Aldeburgh just to get a couple of other foregrounds that I have been looking at for this evening as well, which I'll then blend with the sky shots that I've been taking this evening. Come down now to, I guess, the middle of Aldeburgh onto the beach here, where there are these little fishing boats that make quite an interesting composition. There's a few boats all over the beach here, so I've been sort of wandering around trying to find the composition that pleases me. This works. I'm doing a 24mm landscape shot here, which I'll blend with the 24mm Orion sky. Orion was right behind these boats earlier in the evening, so that will work really nicely. I had been a bit worried that we're only kind of 100 yards from the promenade here, which is lit all the way along it, and there's some buildings and hotels along it here which are lit, and I was worried I might get some sort of harsh shadows and, you know, that sort of yellowy street lighty look. But I think where the moon has come up, it's lighting this foreground quite nicely. It's creating quite a nice soft light over these boats, so I'm quite pleased with this composition. Okay, well, I think this is quite an interesting shot, and it's certainly been quite a challenge. I've come down to the south side of Aldeburgh, to this old fortification. It's called a Martello Tower, and I believe it dates back from the Napoleonic Wars. It's a sort of clover leaf shaped construction surrounded by a moat, and there's this bridge that goes onto it. A couple of challenges with this. The first has been the actual composition itself. Really, this is the only game in town. This is the only place I can get high enough to be able to get the sense of the building. I guess this bridge acts as a lead-in line towards it, and thankfully it points in the right direction for where the top of Orion and the Taurus region was earlier in the evening. So that kind of works quite well. The second challenge is you can actually stay in here overnight, and as a result of that, this walkway and some of the tower over there is lit, and that creates some interesting artifacts in the images that I have taken, and I've had to, in fact, side light it using the video light, and sort of light painted, I guess, from both sides here to try to even out the light coverage on the brickwork. Otherwise it just looks a bit weird, and I'll have to blend all those exposures in post-production. I've used 10-second exposures, ISO 800, stopped down to f5.6, so quite a narrow aperture. And that's really just to sort of tame the light that's directly in front of us here, which was just blowing out something terrible without doing that. But hopefully an interesting little composition from quite a curious location. Well, that wraps up my films for this year. It's been, for me, a really memorable year of astrophotography. We had those two phenomenal nights of aurora in the UK in May and in October. All night aurora, visible with the naked eye, absolutely phenomenal. I even got aurora from a mountaintop in the Italian Alps during the summer. I had lightning kicking off on the horizon. I had Perseid meteors just dropping like flies all around me. An absolutely fantastic, memorable night. We've had coastal adventures in Norfolk and Suffolk, in Cornwall, on the Welsh coast up in Anglesey. I've had an all-night noctilucent cloud adventure up in the Scottish Highlands. It's been just a phenomenally memorable year for astrophotography, but it's also been a year that was tinged with sadness, with the death, very sadly, back in March of Alan Wallace. And our thoughts are still very much with Pauline and the family after that very sad news this year. I'm sure many of you will have followed Alan over the years, and many of you, I'm sure, like me, would have been inspired to take up astrophotography through his videos as well. So that remains a great loss for the astrophotography community, and I hope that in some way I can continue his memory through this channel and through my own Nightscape adventures. So what does 2025 bring? Well, hopefully more of the same, but better. I've got a number of adventures already planned, a couple of those in Europe. I want to explore even more of the part of the world that I live in East Anglia in the UK, and possibly visit some places a bit further afield as well. I'm hoping to continue to improve my astrophotography and my nighttime cinematography so that I can bring you along for these adventures. They can become more immersive and you get to experience a little bit more about what it's like to be out under the stars in these amazing locations in the middle of the night. If you've been around since the beginning of the year with me, then thank you very much indeed for sticking with me. If you've joined during the year, then thank you very much indeed as well. We're up to nearly 1,000 subscribers on the channel now, which just completely blows my mind. And I love the interaction that I have with you guys. I love the community that we've built up around the channel. I love answering questions. And to that end, I'm also considering a series of tutorial videos next year as well. I often get asked how I do some of the things that I do. I give some hints away during the films that I make, but I've never actually sat down and done some proper tutorial videos. So that's something I'm thinking about. It's quite a commitment, so I haven't fully made up my mind yet. Perhaps let me know in the comments if that's something that would interest you, and that may well influence whether or not I go ahead with those. But in the meantime, all that remains for me to say is thank you very much indeed for coming along, and I wish you a happy, healthy, prosperous, and more importantly, clear-skied 2025. See you soon. Well, welcome back to the channel. Well, hello. Hello. Very warm welcome. Well, how about that? Well, hello. Well, hello. Well, a very warm welcome. Look at that. If you don't want to see me take my trousers off, look away now. This colossal telescope. Whoa! Cornwall's such a cool place. Absolutely nuts. What can I say about tonight? What a night. But we've had a really enjoyable night. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Thanks very much indeed for coming along. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Thanks very much indeed for joining. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Thank you very much